We don't have an indication yet, but what I do know is that the president of Zimbabwe, Emmerson Mnangagwa, led a delegation to the World Economic Forum on Africa here in South Africa, in Cape Town. And this morning, after the news broke of Robert Mugabe's death, in fact, it was the president who tweeted that Robert Mugabe had died in a hospital in Singapore. He and his delegation then left to go to Zimbabwe, where Mnangagwa said he would address the nation, he would address the people of Zimbabwe first about the funeral arrangements for the former president. Now, it's unclear whether Robert Mugabe will be having a state funeral or whether he will be having a private funeral, because he did indicate that he would like to have a private funeral with his family.
Now, while Nelson Mandela believed very much in reconciliation, Mugabe was the complete opposite, with his incredibly confrontational approach towards Africa's former colonial masters. So how do Africans view him?
Very interesting question. Zimbabwe, as a member of the African Union, and also Robert Mugabe was a chairperson of the African Union at one stage. Now, members of the African Union would often differ with Robert Mugabe, but this was behind closed doors. Publicly, they stood by him, they backed him. It's also known that African leaders would say that it would be un-African of them to disagree publicly with other Africans. So they would have these conversations behind closed doors about their disagreements with him. But once they came out publicly, they supported him. And that is what a lot of Zimbabwean people were saying to the African Union, to South Africa, and also to the Southern African Development Community, the regional leaders, saying that when we called on you for help, you didn't come and help us. They cited the elections in 2002, the elections in 2008, which they said was rigged, but was endorsed by the African Union and endorsed by regional leaders. Now, in the insert that we heard earlier, Kofi Annan also called for Robert Mugabe to step down. Nelson Mandela called for him to step down. And the one African leader who publicly called for him to step down in an open letter that he wrote to Robert Mugabe was the then president of Botswana, and said to him, if you really care and love your country, do the honorable thing and step down and allow your country to flourish. So publicly, people and African leaders supported him. Behind closed doors, they did not agree with his policies, and particularly his land reform program, where we saw land being confiscated from white people, from white farmers, and given to supporters of Robert Mugabe and supporters of the ZANU PF party. And we've seen that the economy has deteriorated, the economy is in tatters, and 2 million people go hungry every day in Zimbabwe, and a loaf of bread costs more than $6 US.
Aisha Ismail reporting there from Cape Town. Thank you.